This evening I want to talk about the word, and I don't really want to talk about the word, but let's start there with the word authentic. I mentioned this in the newsletter, and it's something I'm drawn to. Thank you for listening. And throughout this, I'd like to suggest, and I'll probably end up saying this three times, that as we talk about this word, and maybe it's a concept, authentic. I'd like to welcome us all not to approach it as a concept, but more as it's not properly a verb, of course, but to approach it as a verb. Approach authentic as something that we do rather than that we try to think about or believe in or acquire. Something that we do. I wanted to start with definitions because I was curious, what's behind this word, and I don't have the etymology of this, but there's quite a variety of definitions. Some come from the art world, of course, where paintings that are um, sometimes ripped off, or authentic comes up there. Authentic comes up with currency or literature. Scott, I stumbled onto one definition that I know a little bit of music theory, but I'd never heard this before. Authentic referring to progressing from the dominant chord to the tonic. That was new to me. Webster's dictionary had a pretty good definition. True to one's own personality, spirit, or character. The one I liked the most came from the OED, the Oxford English Dictionary, and that definition is the origin or source of something, from which something springs, proceeds, or is derived. That one got my attention. For years when I was younger, I distinctly did not feel authentic. Something felt like it was missing. And maybe more to the point, I felt like Holden Caulfield, like a phony. I felt phony. I wasn't authentic. I wasn't really anybody yet. And it took me a while to realize that phony was just a story. And that in my personal search for being authentic, what I was really looking for was another story. I wanted a story. I wanted a good one. I wanted a character to be. I wanted a persona to adopt or to wrap myself in or to inhabit that I could hide behind. And maybe I thought that was authentic. Clearly, it's not. It's inauthentic. And hopefully later I might have learned a bit more about authenticity, or maybe I've just wrapped myself in yet another story. I don't know. But what I have come to experience, and this is the second time I'm going to say this, is this notion of authentic is not something that I become. It's not something that I acquire or learn. It's something that I do. Or rather, it's something that I have the option or the opportunity to do all the time. And rarely do I take that option, hopefully more than I used to. I don't know if you've seen yesterday's newsletter, but I put an image in the newsletter of a little kid coloring. And I always go back to this image in my head of little kids and how they do what they do. We've all seen kids color or do some craft or play with logos, play with Legos, and they're single-minded about it. They're committed in their intent. And when we see that, I think what we're seeing is authenticity. They're doing it authentically. They're all in. There's no duplicity or artifice or agenda, usually, other than to color within the lines. As they're trying to color within the lines, my opinion is, and this is just my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt, it seems to me they're being authentic. I don't think they know how to be otherwise. I have some synonyms for authentic, and let me just say them slowly, and just let them land and see how they feel. And then I have some others that I'll read after that. But authentic, genuine, wholehearted, single-minded, fully engaged, committed, confident. I love all those. They feel good when I hear them. They feel good. This next list has a different feel, so just let them land, and maybe we can talk about this later. See how these feel. Distracted, going through the motions, on autopilot, multitasking, worried about the outcome, self-consciously thinking about what someone else thinks, planning the next thing, those two lists are all ways that we can be, not things that we believe in, not things that we run off from a list but those are all things we can be. We can be distracted, or we can be single-minded. We can be fully engaged, or we can be worried about the outcome of what we're doing. So authenticity, or being authentic, is a choice. What I'd love to get across tonight is that it's a choice that's immediate for all of us. It doesn't take a secret handshake. It doesn't take a password. And it probably takes some training, I think. But that's what we're doing here tonight. But it's available to everybody. When? When is it available? When can we be authentic? Can we do it anytime or anywhere? What are the things that we do where we find it difficult to be authentic? I mean, speaking for myself, there's all kinds of things that I do when I think I'm inauthentic, which means I'm spacing out. I'm not doing the thing that I'm doing. Maybe that's the best definition of authentic, is doing the thing that you're doing. Driving. It's easy for me to wander off and think about stuff while I'm driving. Bathing, eating, chatting with someone. Chatting with a friend or a family member or an acquaintance is a wonderful place to practice, because there's sticky content there. There's ideas and there's stimulation and there's creativity, and it's easy to get pulled off track. It's easy to not listen when the other person's talking. This is one reason, again, my opinion, but one reason that counsel practice is so powerful. It really is authenticity practice. Can I show up in a conversation with other people and be fully authentic by speaking my heart when it's my turn, but completely listening and only listening when it's not my turn? Another place that's difficult to be authentic is when we're waiting. Waiting, especially when you travel, there's all kinds of opportunities, and you have to wait. And what a great practice space for being authentic, for being fully present while we don't know when the train's coming, or why the plane is delayed, or they were supposed to pick me up a half an hour ago. Did they forget? And here's another question. Does being authentic require us to be calm or equanimous? And I'll go ahead and answer the question and say, no, it doesn't. Because we're not always calm and equanimous. So we could say, well, we should be calm and have equanimity. But shoulds are not our practice. We don't practice should. We practice what is. So how do we be authentic when we're upset or grieving or angry? Or I have a lot of British friends, and they have a lovely expression called chucking a wobbly. I think it means throwing a tantrum. I think it's a beautiful expression. Shōun Roshi reminds us of the story that ends with, whatever you do, don't wobble. And I don't think that he was referring to not chucking a wobbly. I think what he meant was, if you're going to chuck a wobbly, go all in. Go all in. I was helping him on the roof of the barn once, a number of years ago, and he hit his finger with his hammer, and he said, "Damn it!" It was a whole Dharma talk in one word. The hair on the back of my arm stood up. He really hurt his finger. And he was pissed. And as quickly as it came, it was over. That damn it just went right through. It reminds me of, and I've probably shared this before, reminds me of Suzuki Roshi, and Roshi encouraged us this way. He said, when you do something, you should do it with your whole body and mind. You should be concentrated on what you do. Do it completely, like a good bonfire. Don't be a smoky fire. Burn yourself completely If you do not burn yourself completely, a trace of yourself will be left in what you do. So humor me if you would. Let's do this for a second. We'll do a little exercise. Imagine a little kid, maybe 5 years old, sitting at the kitchen table, kind of like that picture I put in the newsletter. And there's a box of 64 Crayola crayons strewn all over the place. Remember those boxes of 64 crayons? It was a pretty big deal if you had a 64 or a 128. I think there was a 128 too. And some of them had a little crayon sharpener in the front, if I remember right. And I hope the Crayola company has changed its ways. I think there used to be one called Skin or Flesh Tone or something. And I hope they've addressed their sins with that one and adjusted things. Anyway, remember those boxes? Remember how they smelled? Oh my gosh. So, and imagine there's various sheets of this pale brown paper around on the kitchen table. You know that kind of paper that we used to get when we were kids that have little chunks of wood in it? I think we got that kind of paper because it was cheap. I don't know. Now imagine that you're that little kid. Let's all do this. You're Susie or you're Skipper or you're Buffy. And it's 1961. Obviously I'm drawing on my own memory. So close your eyes. Close your eyes for a second. And hold on to your crayon. And maybe it's yellow or burnt ochre or brick red or scarlet or periwinkle. Try to color within the lines. Try to draw a giraffe. And stick your tongue out to the side like kids do. Bear down, get really intense. Everything else falls away. It's just you and your periwinkle giraffe. Authentically coloring. Okay, go ahead and relax. Zazen, and everyone knows this, so I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Zazen teaches us how to be authentic in a very controlled and a very limited practice space. We strip away all the distractions other than our galloping thoughts. We sit up straight. We hold our head in our hands and our arms, just so. Keep our eyes open and we glance down. Let our breathing just relax. And we say practice because we're practicing being authentic. We're practicing being present. We're practicing being unified or whole. We're practicing being on fire. We don't always succeed, of course, and we all know this intimately, don't we? But even in our effort and even in our failure, we're whole and complete and authentic. If we're counting our breaths, we fully commit to one. As Geoff teaches us, one, and nothing else. And if we're working with who am I, we question this as if our lives depended upon it, and that there's no option but to find the answer. If we're practicing the Mu koan, we are relentless and single-minded. doggedly asking about this dog and about ourselves. If our practice is shikantaza, or broad spectrum awareness, we raise our energy level and we commit fully to everything in our sense fields. It's said that we can begin sweating when we do shikantaza due to the intensity or the authenticity. In each of these practices, we strive to be whole, to unify, to be genuine, to be authentic. We sat before and we're going to sit after I finish here, but let's take 1 minute and be together and just breathe, fully committing to just breathing. Nothing else matters. We're all in. There's nothing left in reserve. No escape, no plan B, no ashes left. Just for a minute. Thank you. That's it. Authentic bodhisattvas. Kinhin teaches us how to do this as we pick up our authenticity from the cushion and we move about with it, move around. But it's still in a very limited, very controlled, very deliberate way. We're taking the next step with our practice. Work practice, or samu, and mindful meals during a retreat take this one more step further into more complex actions. Where we practice our authenticity. This is why retreat is so powerful and so rich. We have the opportunity to be authentic and genuine and unified all day long in everything that we do. Everything that we do. So let me say this for the third time. I promised I'd say it 3 times. Being authentic is not something that we acquire or we gain. It's what we do. And the choice to do it is available to all of us all the time. Everybody. It said human birthright. A couple of other words I want to refer to because they conjure authentic for me. There are a few translations or nuances of the word sesshin. Sesshin is what we refer to as our retreat. One of them is touching the heart-mind. Another one is to collect one's heart or mind. The one that I've always liked the most, and I believe I've heard Shishin Roshi refer to the most, is to unify the mind. And this just rings of authenticity to me. In a similar way that the term gaucho, gaucho in some settings is really, this is gaucho. And it's referred to really as being a gesture of reverence or gratitude, or simply as a greeting. But I was taught that gaucho is also the very act of unifying heart and mind, putting the two parts together as one, like this, authentically. So this notion or this feeling of being authentic, when I do this, I feel that. I feel that I get to do authentic when I gaucho. These are all practices of letting go or of stripping away versus adding something or gaining anything. We let go and we strip away until there's nothing left. And we exhale and let that go. Can we remember to be genuine or authentic or fully engaged when we're in a work meeting? When we're visiting with friends or family, or watching a movie? Or reading or writing? Or like we said before, when our flight is delayed 8 hours? I'm reminded over and over and over again that authenticity is always at hand, just a breath away. I sit up straight. I face forward. I open my eyes. I see what I see. I hear what I hear. I take a breath. And then I repeat that. I think this is the path to what we call the omnipresent Dharma gates in the Bodhisattva vows. So together, let's commit to a life that is authentic, genuine, whole, on fire, burning up every notion of ourselves, and not even leaving ashes behind. Thank you all for listening. Appreciate it.